Maybe you are not losing yourself. Maybe you are losing the version of you that was built only to survive. Maybe something inside you is not breaking apart to destroy you. Maybe it is softening because it no longer wants to live behind old walls. There are seasons in life when you begin to feel strange to yourself. You wake up and the same room is there, the same phone, the same messages, the same people, the same responsibilities waiting for you. But something inside feels different. You may still answer the messages. You may still go to work. You may still smile when someone asks how you are. You may still say, "I'm fine," because it is easier than explaining something you do not fully understand. But deep inside, a quiet part of you knows you are not the same. The things that once excited you may no longer reach your heart. The approval you once chased may no longer feel worth the cost. The conversations you once joined easily may now feel too loud, too shallow, too far away from what your soul is quietly asking for. You may sit in your car after a long day and not want to go anywhere yet, not because something terrible happened, but because you need a moment to breathe, a moment to feel what you have been carrying, a moment to ask yourself, why does my life look familiar, but my heart no longer feels at home? You may read a message and notice that you no longer want to react in the old way. You may meet an old friend and feel love for them, but also feel that the version of you they remember is not the version of you who is sitting there now. You may look in the mirror and see the same face, but behind your eyes, something is tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of proving, tired of being the strong one, tired of being the easy one. Tired of being the person who keeps everything together while quietly falling apart inside. And because this change feels unfamiliar, you may become afraid. You may ask, what is happening to me? Why do I feel distant from the life I built? Why do I feel like I'm losing interest in things that once mattered? Why do I feel less like myself when I thought healing would make me feel more complete? Please stay with this gently, because this may be the part your heart has been waiting to hear. You may not be losing yourself. You may be losing what was never fully you. You may be losing the mask that helped you belong, the armor that helped you survive, the old identity that protected you when you did not yet know how to feel safe as yourself. And when that old identity begins to loosen, it can feel like loss. It can feel like confusion. It can feel like a quiet grief. Because the ego, in the way we are speaking here, is not something evil. It is not something to hate. It is not something to attack. It is not a monster inside you. It is the part of you that learned how to be accepted, the part that learned how to stay safe, the part that learned what to show and what to hide, the part that learned how to avoid rejection, avoid shame, avoid being abandoned, avoid feeling small. Maybe your ego learned to be perfect because making mistakes once felt unsafe. Maybe it learned to please everyone because being disliked felt like danger. Maybe it learned to stay busy because silence brought too many feelings to the surface. Maybe it learned to control everything because uncertainty once felt unbearable. Maybe it learned to look strong because there was no room for you to be held. Maybe it learned to be impressive because deep down it feared that being ordinary would mean being unseen. Maybe it learned to never need anyone because needing someone once led to disappointment. And for a long time, this version of you helped you survive. It carried you through difficult seasons. It helped you keep going when your heart was tired. It protected your tenderness when the world did not know how to hold it. So if your ego is falling apart now, do not shame it. Do not hate the version of you that tried so hard. That version was not simply false. It was a shelter. It was a strategy. It was the best way you knew how to live when your nervous system did not yet know peace, when your heart did not yet know safety, when your soul did not yet feel free to be fully seen. But here's the gentle truth. Sometimes the shelter that once protected us becomes the room that keeps us from breathing. Sometimes the identity that once helped us survive becomes too small for the person we are becoming. Sometimes the old self begins to fall away, not because we failed, but because we are no longer able to live so far away from what is true. This is why ego falling apart can feel so painful. It is not only an idea. It is not only a spiritual phrase. It is something you may feel in the body, a heaviness in the chest, a strange tiredness after pretending to be fine, a quiet sadness when you realize you have been living for expectations that no longer feel alive, a deep need to be honest, even if honesty changes everything. This inner transformation may look simple from the outside. You may stop arguing so much. You may stop explaining yourself to people who are not really listening. You may stop chasing places that once made you feel important. You may need more silence. You may need more space. You may find yourself walking slower, speaking softer, choosing peace over being right. And at first, you may wonder, am I becoming weak? But maybe you are not becoming weak. Maybe you are becoming real. Maybe you are beginning to notice how much energy it took to be someone you thought you had to be. Maybe this identity shift is not a crisis of who you are, but a release of who you had to become in order to feel safe. Sometimes people call this an ego death, but even that phrase can sound too dramatic, too frightening, too final. Perhaps it is softer than that. Perhaps it is not a death, but a dissolving, a loosening, a returning, a slow remembering that you are more than the image you tried to protect, more than the role you learned to play, more than the story you had to build to be accepted. You are not the performance. You are not the mask. You are not the fear. You are not the version of yourself that was built only to survive. You are the awareness beneath it, the quiet presence that notices, the tender heart that still wants to live honestly, the breath that is still here, even when everything familiar feels uncertain. And this is where many people begin to feel afraid, because when the old self falls away, the new self may not arrive immediately. You may feel as if you are standing in a dark hallway. One door has closed behind you. Another has not yet opened. You are not who you used to be, but you do not yet know who you are becoming. This in-between place can feel lonely. You may feel misunderstood. You may feel like you no longer fit where you used to fit. You may miss the certainty of the old version, even if that version was painful, because pain can become familiar, and sometimes familiarity feels safer than freedom. But please, do not rush yourself out of this hallway. Do not demand a clear answer from a heart that is still learning how to listen. Do not force yourself to become someone new overnight. A seed does not become a tree by hating the darkness of the soil. A dawn does not arrive by fighting the night. A river does not find the sea by judging every turn it takes. Some awakenings are quiet. Some forms of spiritual awakening do not feel like light bursting through the sky. Sometimes awakening feels like finally admitting, I am tired. Sometimes it feels like saying, I cannot keep living this far away from myself. Sometimes it feels like crying for reasons you cannot explain. Sometimes it feels like realizing that the praise you once needed no longer feeds you. Sometimes it feels like sitting alone in your room, hand on your heart, and whispering, I have missed myself. Not the self that impresses others, not the self that performs, not the self that keeps everyone comfortable, but the self beneath all of that, the true self. Quiet, honest, still breathing. Stay with this for a moment, because this is important. Your true self may not feel loud. It may not arrive with a grand announcement. It may not give you a perfect plan. It may speak through a simple feeling in your chest, through the need to slow down, through the desire to stop pretending, through the ache of wanting a life that feels true, not only successful, through a quiet inner sentence, not this, not anymore. Go slower. Be honest. Rest. Come back. Choose peace. Sometimes that is enough for today. You do not need to understand your entire life in one moment. You do not need to know who you are becoming before you release who you can no longer be. You do not need to explain your inner transformation to everyone. Some changes are too tender to be spoken too soon. Some parts of emotional healing need silence before they need language. Let your heart have its quiet season. Let the old walls fall gently. Let the version of you that tried so hard be thanked, not condemned. You can say to that old self, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for helping me survive. Thank you for carrying me until now, but I am ready to live with a little less fear. I am ready to come home to what is true. This is not a war against the ego. It is a soft release. It is the moment when the hand that has been clenched for years slowly remembers how to open. And when the hand opens, something simple can return. Breath, presence, honesty, tenderness. The ability to feel sunlight on your face without needing to turn it into a story. The ability to rest without feeling guilty. The ability to say no without abandoning your own heart. The ability to sit with yourself without needing to become better immediately. You may still have days when you fall back into old patterns. You may still seek approval, and you may still become defensive. You may still try to control things when you feel afraid. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. The old self does not always leave in one moment. Sometimes it returns when you are tired. Sometimes it knocks when you feel unsafe. Sometimes it tries to protect you in the only way it knows. When that happens, do not attack yourself. Place a little compassion there, a little breath, a little space. You can say, I see what is happening. I do not need to become the old version of myself to survive this moment. I can respond more gently now. This is how change becomes real. Not through force, not through self-hatred, not through pretending you have already healed, but through small, honest moments, again and again and again. A slower morning, a deeper breath, a quiet boundary, a tear allowed to fall, a message not sent from fear, a conversation spoken with honesty, a moment when you choose not to betray yourself just to be accepted. These small moments matter. They are not small to the soul. They are the way you return. If you want a gentle practice, let it be very simple. Tonight, or whenever your heart feels ready, sit somewhere quiet. Do not try to fix your life. Do not try to force a revelation. Just place one hand on your chest. Feel the warmth of your own palm. Let your shoulders soften, even a little. Take one slow breath in, and one slow breath out. Then ask yourself softly, what part of me am I tired of pretending to be? Do not chase the answer. Let it rise like a small light in a dark room. Maybe the answer is, I am tired of pretending I am fine. Maybe it is, I am tired of being strong. Maybe it is, I am tired of needing everyone to approve of me. Maybe it is, I am tired of acting like I do not care. Maybe it is, I am tired of living far away from my own heart. Whatever comes, meet it with kindness. Not judgment, not shame. Kindness. Then breathe again and ask, what is one small way I can be more honest with myself today? Maybe it is resting when you are tired. Maybe it is saying no with respect. Maybe it is admitting that something hurts. Maybe it is forgiving yourself for not knowing sooner. Maybe it is going outside for a quiet walk, without music, without rushing. Just letting the sky remind you that there is space around your life. Maybe it is writing one sentence in a notebook. I do not need to be the old version of myself to be worthy of love. That is enough. Healing does not always need a dramatic gesture. Sometimes the soul returns through one honest sentence, one slow breath, one gentle choice, one moment of not abandoning yourself. And slowly, what is false begins to loosen. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gently, in your own time. There may still be people who do not understand your change. Some may miss the version of you that never had boundaries. Some may prefer the version of you that always said yes. Some may call you distant when you are only becoming more honest. Some may think you are lost because you no longer follow the same path. Let that be okay. Not everyone can understand the seed while it is still underground. Not everyone can recognize dawn before the sun has fully risen. Not everyone will know how much courage it takes to stop being who you were expected to be. But you do not have to convince everyone. You only have to keep listening to the place inside you that feels clean, quiet, and true. The part of you that does not need to perform to exist. The part of you that was never destroyed by pain, only covered. The part of you that is still here, softly breathing, still worthy, still becoming. So if life feels strange right now, if you feel unfamiliar to yourself, if old desires are fading, if old masks are slipping, if the person you once tried so hard to be no longer feels like home, please do not be too quick to call it failure. Maybe it is freedom, beginning in a form you do not yet recognize. Maybe it is your heart growing tired of living in a costume. Maybe it is your soul asking for a life that feels more honest. Maybe you are not falling apart. Maybe what is not truly you is falling away. And beneath it, very quietly, something real is still standing. You, not the image, not the performance, not the fear, not the old story, not the version of you that had to be accepted at any cost. Just you, breathing, listening, returning, May you be gentle with the version of yourself that is leaving. May you be patient with the version of yourself that is arriving. May you stop forcing clarity before your heart is ready. May you trust the quiet work happening beneath the surface. May you remember that losing an old identity is not the same as losing your soul. May you find peace in not knowing everything. May you find courage in being honest. May you find rest in the simple truth that you do not have to earn your right to exist. You are not losing yourself. Your ego is falling apart, and maybe beneath all that falling, your true self is finally being given space to breathe. Thank you for staying here for a while. If these words met you in a tender season, may they walk beside you like a small lantern in the dark. And if your heart feels ready, you are welcome to continue this journey with Soul Lantern Journey. You may also leave one simple thought in the comments. Not a perfect thought, just something true, a word, a feeling, a small sign that you are still here. Because sometimes healing begins with the quietest confession. I am changing. I am afraid. But I am coming home to myself.